Hello, friends. Oh my God, Happy New Year. Welcome back to the
Oh
Mindful
yeah,
CEO.
yeah.
I know.
It's been a bit since we recorded something.
It's been since last year. It's now 2026,
Oh,
people.
it
Holy
is
snap.
2026. It's true. Here we are. Oh, in 2026, we're bringing back guests. By the way, everybody.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah, we got a couple of cool people in the works.
Love that.
Um, but yeah, let's jump in because we don't know where we're going with this. Um,
Well, we have a vague destination and we're going to move in a purposeful manner.
yeah, well, I think that's worth distinguishing because I think the last, I don't know, what, 6 months,
Yeah.
8 months. You
Yeah.
know,
3 years.
no. Um,
Okay. All right.
but we woke up to, Chris slapped me upside the head. I woke up to, but we woke up to that we've been wandering in a non-purposeful manner toward no destination,
And
right?
that is not uncommon in business, right?
Right?
Like
You
it
just
is
get
yeah.
no. It's a really, Chris. That's a really. I mean, this is why we record because we don't
Yeah.
see shit until we start hit
Right.
record. But
Right. Hit
it is.
record.
It's super common to get what I think is referred to as lost in the weeds or not seeing the forest for the trees,
Yeah.
that you get caught in the day to day. You're doing the doing that you know to do because you've done it and you know this is what keeps
Yeah.
us alive. So we've been showing up every week because that's what we do. And we know that not showing up would be admitting defeat or it would be canceling something or it would be ending something. And
Yeah.
we're not going to do that, but we're just going to keep showing up. But if you're just showing up, going through the motions, you're avoiding any sort of you're just avoiding any declaration, any causality, any agency. You're just showing up.
Yeah.
You're going through the motions. You're just doing whatever work there is to do. And frankly, avoid, on one hand, calling it complete, quitting the job, closing the store, whatever is takes way more effort than just blindly showing up and wandering, going through the motions every day.
Yeah.
A lot of times the path of least resistance is going through the motions.
Mm-hmm.
I would think, I mean, I'm a little surprised. What strikes me as an insight in my head now that I've said it out loud strikes me as dumb, but in my head, it sounded like, yeah, I think the path of least resistance is quitting, is stopping
Mm,
whatever you're doing. But I don't think that's true.
mm.
I think the path of least resistance is sleepwalking through it.
Yeah, I could see that. Sure. Going through the motions. Napoleon Hill in Outwitting the Devil called it hypnotic rhythm.
Fuck yeah. I forgot about that book.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like 97% of the population are just stuck in hypnotic rhythm. We sleepwalking. We're just going through the motions, punching the clock. There's no sense of purpose. There's just showing up and doing the same old thing. And that's so common in business, like you said, because we get familiar with it. I referenced Daniel Kahneman yesterday. You'd be so proud of me. I'm
Ooh,
like system two thinking, Daniel Kahneman, even though I haven't read the book. But that whole thing, like it takes some effort and some cognitive like intention to sit with what is my purpose? That's not an easy question to answer.
right. Right. And then to make sure every day that my actions are moving in that direction,
Yeah,
and assessing, right? You talked about assessment pregame. Um,
yeah, right.
so I think, we wanted to roll out a framework that we're playing with thinking from
Yeah,
and give everyone an opportunity to use this as a filter or a template, a guide, whatever,
yeah,
for your own thinking regarding your own business and your own life. So you want to introduce it, Chris? Because
yeah.
this is the master of this shit.
Yeah. The uh anytime you're trying to wrestle esoteric ideas to the ground and make them useful, it helps to have edges. Like we need words and language around this so we don't get lost in, everything, nothing land. So uh I was just sitting with like, well, what are some of the things required for us to bring the world into a more mindful place, especially in the business world. Um, you started. Maybe I'll toss the ball back to you for a minute because you had talked a couple calls ago about attitudes, as in like tenets. We've been playing with tenets for a while,
Yes.
but I really liked the way you described attitudes as it relates to aviation.
Yeah.
Maybe you can distinguish that, and then I'll come back to the framework.
Sure. Yeah, I like attitude because it includes both the mental, sort of the default understanding of attitude is, our mood,
Yeah,
right?
right,
That's
right.
when we talk about when anyone talks about attitude, what mostly people hear is mood.
Yeah.
But attitude is also in terms of aeronautics, I don't fly, so this is just what I've read. Um, but it means your orientation relative to the horizon
Mm-hmm. Love
is
that.
your attitude,
Love that.
your orientation relative to the horizon. And I think that's a really useful definition of attitude because there's agency involved in that.
Mm-hmm.
It's easier to get your agency inside that, you
Right.
know, right? Your mood sort of strikes me as well, descriptive at best.
Yeah.
I'll describe the mood I'm in,
Right.
not really causal in any way.
Mm.
It's very hard for me to, I don't default to causing my mood.
Yeah.
Um,
Right.
although
And
that's
usually attitude in the default way of talking about it, like you're saying, a mood is not, it's not relative to anything else. It's not relative to a
that's
horizon.
right. That's right.
And
Yeah,
I really like that horizon piece.
yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, and even yeah, there's the default sort of understanding of positive and negative emotions.
Yeah.
Frustration, despair.
Hmm.
By default show up on the negative side of the spectrum, and joy and fulfillment show up on the positive side of the spectrum. So if your mood is in any of those camps, there's an
Yeah.
inherent or an automatic assumption that one's positive or not. Where grief
Mm.
could be generally considered negative, but it's really neither inherently. It may be
Sure.
just completely appropriate for the circumstances. So
Right.
mood is generally by default, when encountered
Yeah.
in nature, when you sneak up on it, is how we find it. We sneak up on it. We don't cause it. We are
Right. Right. Right.
just acknowledging something that already exists or mood.
Whereas,
Whereas
yeah.
attitude in the aeronautical sense is causal. It's I
Yeah.
am going to orient myself relative to this particular horizon, the horizon,
Yeah.
the destination where I'm headed, I'm going
Yeah.
to orient myself in a
Yep.
particular way to get there.
Yep.
And my whether I get there or not, and the speed with which I get there, and the efficiency with which I get there is determined by my attitude, which is causal because I can orient my plane.
Yeah.
I've got my hands on the knobs and levers that orient the plane.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
And
Perfect.
yeah,
So with that as like how we're talking about these three parts of the framework, it's kind of like a three-legged stool. So I'll lay this out, but and a three-legged stool, like you don't have one leg or two legs, it doesn't work. So you need all three legs for a three-legged stool. So the first attitude where you can orient your life to a horizon is connection. And these are all inside of mindfulness, like connection to yourself, connection to source, whatever you call source, right? Where Aaron and I often talk about thinning the veil or consciousness, or right. So uh, your connection to source and your connection to others. That first leg of the stool is connection, and that those connections absolutely impact your experience of your life. If you're not connected to yourself or source or others, you're unmoored. You're unmoored. Your life is tossed around. That connection really brings you here. And some practices of connection, meditation is a practice of connection. Like the more when you're watching your thoughts, that's connecting you back to self. If you're practicing gratitude in meditation, that's could be connecting you back to source. If you're in Aaron and I lead the Mindful CEO Mastermind, which is a small group of other people committed to this conversation. And every week on Zoom or every week online, we're meeting, having conversations, and those conversations are connecting us to each other. That's a practice. So that's the first piece of this is connection. Do you have anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, well, I mean, we're talking about it. So one thing is you're talking about it. The first piece is connection, and the
Yeah.
acronym starts with CAP, but it's it's holographic. It's there's not an order to it. I mean, you know, we live life in a linear fashion.
Yeah.
We live life chronologically. You know, if you're going to get an acronym, it has to start with a letter, it has to end with a letter, you know, for it
Yeah.
to be a mnemonic that works, you need a
Yeah.
letter. So there's your the propensity is going to be to first connection, second agency, third purpose, one, two, three. And it's not like that. It's really important that we get you could start anywhere and then
Yeah.
you know and they're all the three-legged stool is a useful metaphor there because they're all important. There's not
Right.
one
Yeah.
uh
In some seasons of your life, you may be strong in one and not paying attention to the others. And in a different season of your life, they can switch. Like to your
yes,
point, like it's not, oh, if the first one's not working, the others don't work. No, it's like at any point in time, one of these three pieces of the framework could be out of alignment.
right, and you and would throw off the others, throw off
Yeah.
your balance.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that's one thing. So then to really dive into, I mean, we could spend a lot of time diving into each, and maybe we will in further, you know, in further episodes, take an episode for each
Yeah.
thing, and that might
Sure.
be worthwhile to look at tomorrow, Chris. Um, you know, because when we talk about connection, there's connection to each other, and I'm just going to re-say what you said, but
Yeah.
not as well. Um, you know, nothing happens worthwhile on your own. You could say nothing gets built. You know, you want
Mm,
to without others. Our
yeah.
connection to others is, you know, I mean, everything from networking to the family unit
Hmm.
to you know what expressing gratitude towards others, all this entire world of others, our customers, our
Mm-hmm.
clients, our vendors, you know, those who we serve, those who are served by us,
Hmm.
all of that is connection. And then connection also means, are we connected, and you talked about this, connection to ourselves, connection to the bigger self,
Mm,
connection to, you know, ourselves, a connection to God, whatever you want to call God, whatever your relationship to that word is.
hmm.
Um, the big S self, as we say around here.
Yeah.
You know, the connected to that, and that really is it's related to our connection to others. There's a definite relationship that those two things have, and we access that through meditation. That's one of the
As a
big,
practice.
is as a practice, we are connecting to ourselves in that way. We're release and that just the methodology of that connection is we release everything that's in between us in that connection because we're not getting connected to ourselves.
Mm,
That's
right. Right.
we're always connected to ourselves. It's just that we have things that are in the way
Yeah.
of our experiencing that connection.
Mm,
There's never a time when you're not connected to source.
yeah.
And there
So,
is mostly times, most times there are uh, conversations,
mm,
is a good enough word for that, uh, that are in the way of your experiencing the connection you are to source. But
yeah.
meditation is really, really useful for that. So connection
Mm,
covers both those domains. That's a lot of lifting that word needs to do,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
There's a world in either side of that, you know. So I just wanted to take a minute and deepen that because it's important
Yeah.
that you don't hear one or the other. that you hear both.
Yeah. Yep. Good. And just for the sake of the framework, connection really goes to work on the place of being, like where, like how we're being, how our being. In the world of yin and yang, there's being and doing, we could say. And for me, connection in this framework is really about how you're nurturing or supporting your being. So I want to add that because you'll see in the framework here, the other two deal with doing and then the bridge between doing. So between being and doing.
Great.
Should I move to, you ready for the next
Yeah,
one?
yeah, yeah. I'm good. I'm good.
Okay. So again,
You may
three-legged
go.
stool,
You may move on.
CAP. Okay. The second piece of the framework then, or leg of the stool, is agency. Agency is about choosing. It's about, um, I always loved that quote, be the change you want to see in the world. To me, because it inspires purpose, it leads to purpose. But many people um, don't make the choices that would make their life better. They choose default, they choose hypnotic rhythm. They're not actually choosing. And agency speaks directly to you deciding something for yourself, like make a choice. And many people just, it takes a little bit of courage to do that. So a lot of it's easier to not do that.
Right. Well, that's what we were talking about earlier.
Uh-huh.
Was just the going through it. Now, did we do hypnotic rhythm after we started recording or before we started recording?
I don't remember. I think it was before. I think it was before.
I think it was before too. It's worth distinguishing that because I haven't thought about that book in forever, and
Yeah.
it's really impactful. So you want to talk about that because I think that's
Yeah. I mean, Napoleon Hill wrote Outwitting the Devil. I want to say several years after Think and Grow Rich, but he asked his family to not have it published until way later. And so it was only been published in the last decade or so because it was out there. I mean, if they had published that in 1930s or whatever, 36 maybe is when it was written. I mean, they would have been, laughed out of the country. I mean, so but now that there's a lot of stuff around law of attraction and a lot of like other conversations happening, fascinating that he was writing about that at the time. Anyway, it's basically a conversation between the devil and I can't remember who, Napoleon Hill.
yeah.
And the basically the devil is like 97% of the people are living their lives in what he calls hypnotic rhythm, which basically is going through the motion. And I think that's interesting. I think that speaks to why agency is so important. Because if you're stuck in hypnotic rhythm, you're not making choices for yourself or the things that matter to you.
Right.
So from a mindfulness place to have a framework for mindfulness, then you can see why having practices, things, processes, and practices over time, daily, weekly, annually, that you can bring to the forefront to practice agency, practice making decisions, practice setting boundaries, practice saying what you want to say.
Mhm.
John Mayer, say what you want to say. Practice choosing. It sort of breaks that hypnotic rhythm and puts you in a more mindful state about the life you're creating.
Yeah, that going through the motions hypnotic rhythm thing is so. I mean, that's what we found ourselves in. That I
Yeah,
definitely that's you know, and that and just that experience. That's what I'm saying. Is it definitely takes more effort, more
yeah,
intentionality. It takes agency
yeah.
to quit than it does to just continue on going through the motions.
Or to speak up, like you said at the beginning of this recording, like I smacked you around or however you said it, like, but it took something for me to say, hey, I noticed something and I want to bring it up for our conversation. And
Yes.
it was scary. It was a little bit like, God, I don't want to offend Aaron or I don't want to overstep my role in a partnership. And then the other side of it was, what's the alternative? What am I just going to like, I see something. Am I just going to suffer it for the next year or however long we choose to keep doing this?
Right.
But
Well,
that's what
that's, I
people
mean,
do.
and very, that is, I mean, anyone listening, you really could just take a step back and look to see, am I going through the motions? Am I suffering through? Am I not saying what there is to say? Have I stepped over what there is to say? Am I actively choosing and acting on my commitments in a way that's expressive of my purpose, which we'll get to in a second. Um, and that space of agency, of autonomy, of knowing that you can have it go the way you want it to go is critical
Mm,
to living mindfully. What the purpose of our show is, what the purpose of what we're up to is to give people a say in the matter of their life that's beyond the default context that we find ourselves in, which in many ways is we've defined as hustle culture, but even even more, I think, pervasive than just hustle culture. The world of business, hustle culture is it, but in the dumpster fire we find ourselves in 2026,
yeah.
the pull is to resignation, is to despair, is
Mm,
to there's nothing I can do about it, is to I will take care of my family and hope everyone else weathers this storm, but I only have so much space
right.
and uh and having agency is a critical, I mean, it's one of the three legs of the stool for that reason.
Right. Yeah. Yep. It felt it when working that framework out, that agency piece. I know that was a really early on when you and I 3, 4 years ago started talking about this collaboration. Agency was sort of a thing for you, like a premise. Like when
Yeah,
people
well,
have agency, the world will change.
that's right. That's my calling in life is that people experience their agency. So everything I do is really wrapped up inside of people experiencing agency.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and for me, meditation is an access to agency. I mean, for me,
Mm,
that's,
mm,
you don't, you, if you are your thoughts, if you are your feelings, if you are
mm,
your ego, and you
mm,
have no agency in that, to the degree to which you are those things, you have no agency
mm, mm,
because you wake up in a mood, you wake up with thoughts, you wake up with opinions, you wake up with, the wind blows a particular direction, or you see, or you read a social media post, or you hear someone speak, and you're wrapped around the axle and upset and disappointed or frustrated or happy or joyous or whatever. But it's all outside of you circumstantially.
mm.
None of it is about you having agency, about saying, directing your life, about choosing your mood, about choosing your orientation, choosing your attitude.
That's right.
Without agency, it's a leaf in the wind.
That's right. So good. So it was beautiful how in sort of distinguishing the framework where agency really fit for me as a bridge between connection and purpose. Like agency was about choosing. So connection's about being. Agency that if I'm being a particular way, it's going to lead you to a choice.
Right.
And so out the an expression of connection then becomes the things you choose.
Yeah.
And and the third leg then I think we can move into that is purpose. So if you don't have purpose, then sometimes the things you choose aren't in service of the things you say matter. They might give you relief now. I might choose something because it gives me relief right now, or it serves
Mhm.
an immediate goal. But as it relates to the horizon, purpose is about the horizon that you're orienting yourself to. And
Right.
that's about doing. So purpose in our third leg of the stool here, purpose is about what you're going to do with your life that you
Right.
say matters.
Right. And again, it's not the third, like the last thing to do, because you could
Yeah,
easily say without purpose, I don't,
right.
I
Yeah.
don't have anything to connect to. I don't, what's the purpose of connecting to anything? You could start with purpose if you wanted to.
Yep.
You could
Yeah,
start anywhere, it doesn't matter.
that's right.
It leads to all of them. And then
That's right.
and then there's that power of, you know, having a purpose, right? Certainly this is Simon Sinek's big deal. And
Yeah, start with why or an infinite game. I find I'm going to do a workshop next month in February around my visioning process and how do you because when I was in my 20s, my younger years of being in business and setting goals and vision boards, a lot of my a lot of how I was taught to do vision and goal setting was about money and lifestyle. How many toys, how many investments, what's your bank account, what's your net worth? Like there was a lot about me, which when you're excited and have something to prove, those can be motivators, but until they weren't, until it was like, wait, there's something bigger in my heart that wants to come out and play, and it's not about what my net worth is, and it's not about how many houses I sell. It's about how, for me, and I think this is very common for people in a mindful conversation, like I want to know, how do I leave the world better than I found it?
Yeah, I think that's an inherent, and I think that is inherent. Okay. So
In
I don't
humans.
know. I think there's an inherent
Mm,
born with
mm,
uh, calling, pull
mm,
for human beings to contribute to
mm.
other human beings. I think we are called to do that. I don't think that, I think if anything happens where people are not doing that, something happened to interrupt it.
Yeah.
But this is anecdotal. I don't have,
Mm.
you know,
Sure.
uh, this is my experience, and my anecdotal evidence for that is in leading, programs for 30 years and asking the question, do you want your life to make a difference?
Mm.
I've yet to meet anyone who says no.
Yeah.
I, and people, that's just how that is.
Yeah.
Um, Everyone wants their life to matter. Everyone wants their life to contribute. Everyone
Yep.
wants to have their life make a difference for someone else. And I just think that's the sort of the it. But again, if you're not connected to that,
Right.
if you're not connected to yourself, if you're, you know,
Right.
at the effect of life, or you have, you know, which is also an expression of no agency, then that
Hmm.
may seem like a pipe dream or something I can't do, or I'll never get to, or I'm not going to,
That's right. That's right.
be able to sort that out. And so, you know,
It's an interesting both and, because on one hand, I agree. I have even less data than you have. You have 30 years of data of asking the question, do you want your life to make a difference or matter? And people are like, yeah.
yeah,
But I, so on one hand, there is this uh, inherent thing I want to make a difference. And on the other hand, there is this hypnotic rhythm where we don't know how to hold that big a picture. We say my heart really bleeds for or hurts for or wants to make a difference for X, but then we don't really know how to get our hands around a vision that we feel we're like, oh, well, this is what would change the world. But then we go, but I can't do that. Somebody else
right,
has to. I couldn't do that. Who am I to do that? And that's because you're not connected to the capital S self, and you're not connected to the person you are. You may be stuck in an identity or stuck in a mood or stuck in a something, but it's telling you you can't do it. And
right,
so then you forsake the real purpose for something less than and call it making a difference. Like, well, I'm just going to sell 100 houses at this. You got to take this with a grain of salt, but like,
yeah,
you could say, well, I make a difference by selling 100 houses a year to people, and every person who has a great customer service experience with me, I made a difference for. Not saying that's wrong, but what I am saying is, if your heart was to say what would leave the world better than you found it, I don't think you'd say selling 100 houses with good customer service. I think there's some thing you'd want to leave the world. And that's, you can push back on that, but I think we tend to want to be, the difference we think the world should have is not selling more houses.
yeah. I think you could make the argument you're making is solid. I don't, and at the same time, they're making the argument that every interaction matters, and that
That's fair.
every interaction that you leave
Yeah,
someone happier than you left them,
of
and
course.
that you took care of
Of
people.
course.
It's those things do matter, and they do leave the world a better place. And if you were connected to source, if you were connected to who you are in the way that we're speaking about it, there's a likely larger vision,
Yeah.
or another way to say that is if you're not connected to a larger vision of that,
Yeah.
that there's probably something interrupting your connection.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. I like that. That's great. I would also say I would also say, well, first of all, 100% agree. All the interactions you have make a difference. It's just not the horizon. I just don't think it's the horizon that you're orienting your
That's
life
right.
to.
That's right. I don't think it's that. It's right. That may be a milestone marker, a
Yeah.
mile marker on the
Yeah.
way. Um,
Yeah.
it,
It could be it's the finite game you're playing inside a bigger infinite game. You might
yes,
say, like,
that's
I'm
a
gonna
great
for
way
the
to say
next
that.
10, 20 years, I'm gonna sell 100 houses a year, and I'm gonna do the best job, and I'm gonna make sure
Yes,
everybody knows it. But absent of saying, like, what's the infinite game that could get passed on for generations, you're gonna miss a horizon that could be really helpful as a filter for you,
yes,
which you had talked about. I don't know if you want to talk about that a little bit, but having that infinite game and that purpose really becomes a filter, becomes a thing that helps you make decisions in your life,
yeah,
that without it, you might be making hasty decisions that are absent of a bigger context.
yeah. I think that's a great way to say it. And using the purpose as a filter, what we're referring to there, what we're talking about is, there's a million things that come up during a day,
Yeah.
that you could put your attention on. People
Yeah.
looking for what's my next job, what's my next career, what do I do in this
Mhm.
scenario, in this dilemma, in this issue? How do I handle myself? How do I approach this?
Yeah.
Do I work with this client or not? Do I take this gig? What all the different questions that show up that you could ask. Um,
Mm.
you could use your filters of a filter
Yeah.
for does this bring me closer to fulfilling on that?
Right.
So using the
Yeah.
purpose as a filter for your action is one way. I mean, again, you just go back to attitude. You have a horizon. Are you oriented toward that
Right.
horizon in a way that's going to
Right.
get you there, or are you not?
Yeah. That's great. Love that. Yeah. That's Gary Keller's, a lot of his work was helpful for me, like in the one thing, and then just being around his talks and thoughts for so many years. I think some of that, I think I lost my thought on that, but I think there's something about the purpose. Um, I remember, it was about Jim Collins actually in Built to Last, where he talks about built to last companies. The founders really had this ability to preserve the core of who they were and also stimulate progress in ways that stimulate
Mm,
progress usually was around technology. Like, let's bring in tools and resources that actually help our mission or our purpose, compared to the comparison companies where either a company was so entrenched in who they think they were that they couldn't see technology. They were like Blockbuster, like internet movies, movies on CDs mailed in the, that's not who we are.
right.
Or the flip side of that being somebody who's so obsessed with missing out on the next technological bubble or boom, like in this case maybe AI, that you chase technology absent of knowing who you are. And so when you can have a horizon and be like, this horizon is very deeply embodied in who I am and what my life is for, then when technologies come around, or courses or certifications or opportunities, all those things get filtered through a decision that is related to the horizon you're orienting yourself to. And that's the power of having a vision far enough out that allows you to make decisions. Because if you don't have that, then you're like, oh, AI, oh my God, I need to do that. And then, oh, the next, you start to feel like you're going to miss out on something, and you make decisions that are not in the context of a bigger horizon.
It's really well said, Chris. It's fabulous. I don't even have anything to add. How's that?
Boom. Just nothing.
Boom.
Yeah.
Fucking smack.
And this is, I think that really rounds out the three-legged stool. Again, that's about purpose, is about what you're doing. And so you've got connection, which is about being, agency, which is about choosing, and then purpose, which is about doing. And I think it's, you could add a million different legs to a stool, but if we just try to think what's the minimum viable distinction here that would
Hmm.
give me the practices inside of each of those three legs of the stool are practices. There's no one moment of any of those three things that are going to create change for you. The
Hmm.
change happens in a process over time. The CAP acronym just gives you places to find a practice inside each one that you can commit yourself to over time, the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And that's what will create the change. But know that you're committing to the practices not because they're popular or trendy. You're committing to them because they orient you to a horizon, to something you say matters. Not because, you know, cool people do them, like Aaron.
Because that's what matters.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly right, Chris. I think that rounds out the three, and to use those as, and I think we could look to see, do we want to, spend more time distinguishing each one more deeply, how to access it, what
Yeah.
what does it look like to deepen connection with self? What does it look like to develop your purpose? We could, run a True North workshop
Yep.
um,
Yep.
for people to develop purpose, callings, things like that.
Yeah. I think there's some great places we can
Yeah, play within
continue
there.
to bring usefulness to all of you that want to keep the thing I love about, if I go back to Ram Dass and the whole, like, we're all just walking each other home. It's not like Aaron and I have the answers, but
Right.
there are things that I think you and I, Aaron, have bumped into over time. Where, like, hey, this would be helpful if we were to put some scaffolding around this piece of it. You and I did that when we started this 3-4 years ago. I knew for myself it would be more helpful for me to act on and bring my purpose to the world by doing it with people I'd want to do it with. And you are one of those people. I'm like, I want to do something with Aaron. I'm more likely to show up if I'm doing it with somebody that I respect and like Aaron. And here we are, years later. The good news is, like, we didn't quit. We did have we had one leg of a stool for a while. Like, we had connection, and that was keeping us in the game. And we had, like, a pinch of agency because we were choosing to show up.
Mhm.
And there were times where we're like, should we keep going? We're like, I think we should keep going. And we chose. Anyway, I just think it's helpful to distinguish the things we say matter to us. And I think for me, this has been really helpful.
Yeah, I think it's great. I think it gives us it's certainly given me a new attitude toward
Nice. Well
the work
played.
we're doing in the mastermind.
Yeah, so good. Speaking of mastermind, I mean, those of you listening, it's as it is so far, it's still a pay what you want, space for
Yeah.
you to participate and practice connection to these ideas, connection to other people having these
Mhm.
conversations and ideas. So if you'd like to learn more about the mastermind, the Mindful CEO mastermind, God, where
Great.
do we send people now, Aaron? Do we even know? Go to the mindfulceo.com. I know you can go to that domain and then just push buttons, because there's a button on there that'll say join the mastermind or
Yes.
apply for the mastermind.
Yes.
But then if you click the application button, we can send
Yeah.
you um, a follow up message with a place for you to kind of pick your level of financial participation. And
Yeah, that's great. We'd love to have you.
yeah,
And yeah, and you can get to the Realtor's Edge and get self-paced mindfulness meditation training. You can reach out. I've got a live cohort of Living a Grateful Life in a Fucked Up World starting probably after this gets published, but maybe not. It's on January 21st. So if you're interested, hit me up. There'll be more cohorts during the year. So we
okay,
got lots of opportunities to play.
yeah, so good, love it. All right, gang. Well, that was great. Thanks, Aaron. See you, everybody.
Peace.
Peace.